Well, I want to say welcome to everyone and a big thank you for joining us and for wanting to become part of this mentoring program. I think it makes just a tremendous impact both for the mentor and the mentee. It's amazing to give back and it's amazing to help other people. And so, thank you all for participating in this. And also, I want to thank Keysight, who has done, and Liz, who has done just an incredible job putting together this program and doing the administration behind it. So, really, this is a tough thing to do with a lot of people, and they do a beautiful job. So, I want to say thank you. I want to also mention if you have any questions to reach out to me or reach out to Liz. We're happy to help any way we can. And we're just very excited to have you here. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Denise. So echo Denise's comments as well. This has been a great program kicked off kind of in the summertime of last year with close to 200 participants in phase one. And we had over 130 participants joining for phase two. So quite a big group and lovely to see all of you here today. The intention of this session is based on feedback that we got from folks in phase one or cohort one on needing a bit more mentoring basics and a little bit more overview on the tool itself that we're using to manage these relationships. So I will go through the slides. I'm happy to send the content out. We'll post both the recording and the content. Some of these you might want to take a slide or two away as cheat sheets for yourselves going forward. So all the content will be provided, and would love for this to be interactive. So I did stop the transcript portion, but hopefully the chat is still live. And if folks want to enter chat questions or enter questions in the chat as I'm presenting, Denise and others can help me with, actually all of you can help with answering questions. So let's get started and try to keep it as interactive as possible. So the first comment I wanted to make is that I've been a strong advocate for being a mentor and having mentors as part of my career over the 28 years that I've been in industry. Each year I try to sign up 2 or 3 people to mentor me in different areas. It could be technical, it could be business, it could be soft skills, depending on the different things I'm trying to learn as I've spanned the aerospace defense industry to the wireless industry to now quantum. So I utilize them and keep in touch with them on a regular basis. And I also mentor about 10 people a year within my company. So in the beginning, that was a lot of individual contributors. Over time, it's now been a lot of managers. But ironically, I've mentored people in HR or now in workplace services, the people that do our facilities, all different leaders in the organization. So it's a great thing to give and receive. And I always say I learn as much from my mentees as they learn from me as a mentor. So it's been a great journey and something I'm passionate about, which is why I wanted to help Denise with this program and extend it to as many people as possible. So for those of you that are here, let's say for mentees, you might be here for a variety of reasons, right? You might want to be developing yourself professionally. And in some cases, some of this splashes over into personally. Sometimes we're talking about things like work-life balance or even interacting with difficult people that aren't maybe necessarily in the work environment. So soft skills, business skills, all equivalently important. You may be trying to expand your functional or leadership skills. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to be a manager or a general manager like myself or a vice president, but many of you could be in technical roles serving in team leadership positions. So even not as a manager, learning to lead through things like influence is very critical. Another big benefit is just improving your self-awareness. One of the things that's nice having a mentor potentially outside of your university or the company that you're working at is that they can give you some very objective feedback, right? And not worry about consequences of, oh, I have to work with this person, right? Or boy, if I give this feedback, am I going to be, or if I ask this question, am I going to be considered differently for an opportunity or a promotion? So I'd say take advantage of these mentors and mentee relationships to get some very open and honest feedback. And also it's about building the network, right? We mentioned we had 180 people in cohort 1 and adding another 130 of them to cohort 2. So we're looking to mix up folks in the program on a 6-month basis and giving you the opportunity to meet many others in quantum, in industry, and globally, quite frankly. It was nice to see where everyone's dialing in from today. Now, we are using a platform called Mentorcliq, and I'd say that helps us from a number of perspectives. One is it helps us do the actual matching of the program participants. So one of the things that many of you have probably already done is raised your hand and said you're interested in this program, and then gotten an email from Mentorcliq asking you to fill out some basic profile questions in the platform. This is everything from, are you more introverted, extroverted, ambiverted, to what are the areas of mentoring where you're looking to get expertise and coaching, and allowing mentors and mentees to be paired with a little bit of science, if you will, in making the best matches. So both Denise, who's on the phone here, as well as Inga from the Keysight team, go through and help with the matching process in both a manual way as well as an automated way. And that's why we're using the platform. In addition, it helps us track participation rate. So we've been able to state that we've delivered over 1,000 hours of mentoring in just the first 6 months. And that helps me with my program sponsors that are helping us pay for the enterprise license for the Mentorcliq platform. So be sure to look for their emails. It's hopefully something that we're not spamming you. It's an email to sign up, and then it's an email once a month to log your hours. And some of these may seem like high overhead activities, but you'll see them a bit later that it's actually literally sometimes 60 seconds or less. So that's a bit about the platform. Now, all of you that are here today have probably made a decision to be a mentor or a mentee for a number of reasons. But you can see some of the reasons for joining here, and they may be more mentee slanted. But part of it is helping folks develop a positive relationship with someone at their company, or in this case, we're opening it up to the broader industry. And I'd say the quantum industry is a very dynamic place. Many people are jumping from company to company, from university to startup, from startup to big company. We have serial entrepreneurs, lots of moving parts. So building that network and positive relationships, I think, is very important. 83% of people say it's to develop skills. And I think when we looked at the data for the Women in Quantum program, I think over 70% of the conversations are actually around soft skills and not around technical skills. So as both a mentor and a mentee, get a lot of questions of, how technical do I have to be? And quite frankly, there's a lot more than technical that we need to get coaching on to be successful. And we also got very good ratings, I would say, from the mentees that were in cohort 1 in terms of the skill sets that they've been able to improve. And you'll see some quotes from participants in the program, I believe, on the next slide of some of the benefits that they've seen. So this one is a bit small font. Again, I'll send out the content, but headline here is, from mentees, we did receive a lot of positive feedback on the impact that we've had. So it was everything from coaching, you can see here, of somebody updating their resume, to perhaps preparing for a job interview, to perhaps preparing for a career change. Lots of positive feedback when we went through the program review process. So this was really heartening for me to see, right, that we're able to make this connection between industry, academia, and on a global basis for this group of folks. We also got some feedback from the mentors, and it's not so much that the list is shorter. I didn't have time to put all the quotes on here. But I would say the mentors were also very positive on the program as well. And we've listed some testimonials with photos from some of the mentors as well as mentees on the Women in Quantum website now. But what's nice here is that we have both female and male participants in the mentor category. And I think that's also reflective of the work environment. So I often solicit both male and female mentors for myself, and appreciate all of you that are here as mentors in the program. So hopefully getting more positive feedback in phase 2 from many of you as well. So the one area of I'd say constructive feedback that came back loud and clear was from the mentors and the mentees. How do we actually get started? Do we need to fill out all these forms? Where am I in the process? So I'm going to spend a few minutes on the mechanics of the platform. Some of you may be familiar with this, so I'll go through it briefly. But again, for those of you that aren't, please put questions in the chat. So as I mentioned, if you've raised your hand and logged into the Mentorcliq platform, the first thing that you have to do is enroll. And this is where you enter a little bit of information about your profile and background. You might list which company you're at and which role you're in. So it's a form-based profile form. The second thing it does is walks you through a personality quiz, which is a total of 10 questions. And again, this helps with the matching process. So it's kind of asking you A or B, which would you prefer? Which do you more associate yourself with? And as I alluded to earlier, maybe some of you are more introverted, some of you are more extroverted. How would you like to spend your Friday night? At home, sipping a cup of tea and reading a book, or out at a nightclub in Las Vegas, right? Or something in between. So it's actually a very quick personality survey, and that helps with the matching algorithms. The next part is around the competencies and preferences. So this is where you might say, I really do want to improve my technical skills, or I do really want to improve my leadership skills, communication skills, teamwork skills. So you can select competencies that you're interested in getting coaching on. And what we are trying to do is actually match that to mentors that have said they have those competencies. So that's why we're asking for this information. It's really for matching in the platform. And then last but not least, we go through this matching process. So what it looks like on our side is it lists potential mentees for a specific person and says, well, in this case, it might be a 65% plus positive match, or in other cases, it might be a 20 or 30% match. So this is where Denise does step in with Inga and try to make sure that we have the right pairing of folks. And Denise knows a lot of you in the network, so we've got the best person on the job helping with the matching. So it's a combination that we do of manual and I'll say this AI machine learning type algorithm running in the background. So the next thing that happens, you've raised your hand that you're interested in the program, you've gotten the message from Mentorcliq, hopefully it's not in your spam folder, and you've set up your profile. The next thing that happens is you should be getting an email that says who your mentor is or who your mentee is. So in this case, I was matched with Heather at IBM, and you can see that's the email that came to me. It doesn't come from Denise Ruffner. It doesn't come from Elizabeth Ruch. It comes from One Quantum with Keysight Technologies. So that's one of the things that if folks aren't receiving emails, please let us know. But first, check maybe your spam folder, or check with your company if you've got an automated spam folder to make sure the things aren't getting clogged in the pipeline. It does have something in the title in the back end that looks a bit more meaningful that says your new mentoring partner, and take next steps, right? And similarly, if you're a mentee, you get an email that says, here is your new mentoring partner and next steps. We also try to set up a deadline that says, please reach out and contact. We ask the mentees to contact the mentors, but this can also be done vice versa within a shorter time period. So we had put in some interim deadlines here of March. Some of these might be slipping into April with the match, I think, Denise, being recently completed, or it's in the process of being completed for those of you in phase 2. But please take a look to see if you've received these emails, and if you haven't, please let us know. So again, they're coming from One Quantum with Keysight Technologies. Okay. So we're through all the mechanics. We've made it through the gauntlet. We've been matched to a mentor or a mentee. Now what, right? For those of you that have never had a mentoring conversation before. So there's a suggested framework here. This isn't a must follow list, but I'd say there's three easy things to remember to kick off your first conversation. In addition to introducing yourselves, starting with just asking questions, right? What are the things a mentor might say? What are the things that you're looking to get out of this relationship? Have you had any successful mentors in the past? Is this your first time participating in this program or other programs, right? Ask broad, open-ended questions to get to know each other. And mentees ask the same of your mentor, right? It might be the first time that they're a mentor as well, or they could be doing this for many, many years. The second is to dive into the details, and we'll give some examples of that. And then the third is to try to make it actionable. So I'm a very action-oriented person. I don't think I leave any conversation, even if it's a personal one, without an action plan of when's the next time we're going to get together or what's the next step. But we've got some suggestions on how to make things actionable for the next call as well. So the next 3 slides go into this in a bit more detail. As I mentioned, in the broad questions category, it could be, who am I? Where am I now on my career journey? And where do I want to go? Oftentimes when I'm mentoring people, they don't know where they want to go, and that's fine. So I usually say, rather than focus on one path, maybe just focus on what are the things that you like, what are the things that you don't like, and perhaps what are some of the things that are new that you'd like to experience, right? What are your career aspirations? All of us have challenges at work, right? What are some of the things that are going on in your environment right now that you particularly find challenging? It could be the technical work's great, but dealing with people is a challenge, right? Dealing with poor performers could be a challenge. Dealing with people that aren't communicating expectations properly could be a challenge. All these things are great discussions to have with your mentor or mentees. In the second area, on the details, again, it's a continued probing and asking why, right? Asking why that is the case. What is the context? Those of you that have children, I'm sure, get why, 7 levels of why, right? So trying to seek to understand first before jumping in with recommendations. Tell me more, if you're a mentor, is a great thing to ask, right? Tell me more about that, and pause and create silence and an opportunity for people to speak. And just, again, probing both ways, right? If a mentee is receiving some input that they don't understand, it's also fair to ask why, right? Why do you feel that way? What in your experience has come up that makes that ring true for you as a recommendation? So think about understanding deeply. One of my friends in business school gets back to the candid feedback. One of my colleagues in business school said to me in a group meeting once, stay in discovery, because I heard one or two things and then was jumping to conclusions. So that's something years later that I still try to do. And that's about diving deep and asking questions. Third area is making an action plan. So some of this could be around what are the topics that we're going to cover in our next mentoring session? It could be, are there other people in your mentors network that could also help you as part of your journey? Could you use this as a way to connect with others? Another part of your action plan may be reviewing the resources that are on the Mentorcliq website. It turns out there's a rich variety of resources out there that some program participants were not aware were there. And part of that is they might have been a little hard to find. So I'll show some screenshots here of some examples of additional resources. And then obviously, as you're going throughout the mentoring relationship, practice, 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 and hone those new skills. So some of the resources that are out on the website that I found particularly useful are shown here. The ones on the right-hand side, like the one that I have circled, are Word documents. So in the first case, it says getting started for a mentee or getting started for a mentor. These are very basic 1 or 2 page, where do I start type documents. In addition, you can see on the left-hand side, the ones that look like play buttons. Those are also a great set of short videos on different topics. So you can see on that whole first block, it's around why mentoring. And the second block is around managing your mentoring relationships. So as different people learn differently, some people would like to read something, some people would like to watch a video, some people would learn by doing. There are some great resources out there that I encourage you to look at. So if we drill down into this getting started, just to give you a visual of what that looks like, it's literally a 2-page PDF document. And you can see on the far right-hand side, this 10 tips to be a great mentee. I think the whole point here is this should take you about a cup of coffee's worth of time to read, or a glass of red wine if you prefer in the evening. So great resources if you're new to this and trying to get started. Also great resources if you're not new to this, but just want to get some best practice sharing from others that have done mentoring before. So these should be lightweight and accessible. Now, where do you find them in the tool? In the in the Mentorcliq platform, I found them on the far right. There's a little button there that says additional resources. So after you've completed your profile, if you look in the far upper right-hand side of the screen, you can see the resources button, and that's where it populates these videos and PDFs. So that's a bit on the resources. Let me pause there and just see, Denise, are there any questions you want me to maybe cover live that have been in the chat, or any comments that you want to make?
So I'm getting notes from people that did not receive an invite, and I'm writing it all down. So I will follow up with Inga.
Yep.
And make sure that everything is addressed. So thank you all for putting that in the notes.
Yep. Yeah, so Denise, my suspicion there is that if people that are on the line, I invited people from cohort 1 and cohort 2, if you will. If people on the line from cohort 1, you should already be in the program and in the tool. Those of you that are in cohort 2, I'm not sure if, Denise, have you and Inga met yet to do all those matches?
That's coming up next week.
Okay. So any of you that are new for phase 2 or cohort 2, well, you haven't missed out on anything yet. You haven't gotten a message because we haven't completed the match process. I should have been more explicit about that. At least not a message from the Mentorcliq platform. So that's a fair comment. Also, just wanted to put a plug in here for all of you that are mentors. If you could help us find one more mentor, each of you, that would be super helpful, because right now we do have a surplus of mentees that are looking for mentoring. And so some of you might get delayed in being matched, or we might ask, if you're a mentee, would you be also willing to try to mentor for this round, so that we can get everybody paired up. So always a
Liz,
bit of a shortage on the mentors.
yeah,
Denise,
Liz,
go ahead.
could you talk a little bit? I think a lot of people always write me and say, oh, I can't be a mentor. I'm not senior enough. Could you share your point of view on what it takes to be a mentor, or what you think, how you would respond if someone said, I'm not senior enough?
Great question. And that's really why I'm targeting many of you that have raised your hand to be a mentee first. That all of you, I believe, could be mentors as well. I think if you have any level of experience, even just graduating out of university, that you can be a mentor for someone. And the example that I give on that is, if we're hiring new hires into our company, one of the things that we do is always pair them up with a buddy. And sometimes the buddy could be a senior person. Sometimes the buddy could be a brand new person that was hired just 3 months before that's pulling the rungs and helping bring somebody along the process. I think that that's also very similar for mentoring. Each of us bring our own experiences to the table. If in university you had to work on any sort of team projects, you understand team dynamics and things that might have worked for you or not worked for you. If any of you, again, are in a university program and needed to communicate with your professors or communicate with your PhD advisor, um, you could think of that as communication and getting people to respond that aren't responding, or dealing with difficult people. These are all things that we have in our experience. And sometimes just sharing best practices around that is very powerful. So there's no magic here in that you can't say, oh, geez, I've got to be working for 5 years or 10 years to be a meaningful mentor. I think all of us can actually contribute as mentors. Doesn't tie to a certain years of experience. I know, Denise, is that similar perspective for you?
It is. And it's funny because I think everybody has a point of view and an interesting addition to when you present them with a problem or a question. And so I value talking to people just from a broad group, both senior and both junior. I love to hear how different people approach problems.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I think that point of view is really, go ahead. That point of view is really important.
yeah. So one more question, Liz, is
Sure.
people are saying they got an invite to the platform, but not a matching email. Can you shed any light on that?
Yes. So um, that email to the platform, strongly encourage you to fill that out, because the more information that we have from that, and if you haven't filled that out, we won't be able to do a match for you. So please check to see that you've got something for the platform to fill out. I believe Inga has sent that out to everyone. Again, if you don't have it, you can contact Denise or myself, and we'll make sure that that gets resent. And then the matching emails will most likely be coming here in the next week or two. Something that's also of note is we're doing this as distinct kind of start stops, because how Keysight loads the data into the platform is also a manual process. So that's why we're not just doing a rolling start. We did an upload of all 130 names at once. So that's a bit of the batch processing going on. Good question.
So
but let me double check. So, but for people that just signed up with phase 2, but did fill out the questionnaire on the website, we should not have expected any emails yet, other than the invite for this.
Good question. I should have done a better "you are here" map. So step 1 was you filled out a "I want to be involved," and that went to Andre's web form. And then step 2 is you should have all received something from the platform. And that would have come out, I believe, in the past couple of days. Again, from the email that I listed, the one, I'll go back here a few so you'll know what to look for. It would have been from One Quantum with Keysight Technologies. So there's a lot of folks I see popping up saying I haven't gotten a message. So maybe Denise, just having Inga resend that out to everyone wouldn't hurt. That might be faster than looking up specific names and resending that way.
Okay, Liz, I'll make sure that happens.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Great questions. All right. So let's transition into the last couple slides here. I think I've got 3 slides left. This next one is a bit content dense, and I'd say would be kind of a key takeaway slide. So we're going to spend a few minutes on this one. On the left-hand side is expectations for mentees, and on the right-hand side is expectations for mentors. So for the mentees, we really want to put the onus on you for driving the meetings with your mentor. So anybody that I'm mentoring, I say, I am happy to spend an hour a month with you, but you own the responsibility of trying to get on my calendar and keeping this momentum going from a scheduling perspective. This may be a bit counterintuitive for, let's say, folks in Asia that might be thinking in a hierarchical way, like, oh, the mentor should reach out to me, or I don't want to be bothering the mentor. I don't think anybody that's volunteered for this program is going to feel bothered if they're contacted to make a connection. So for the mentees, please contact the mentor for the initial call. If you're a mentor in the program, and this happened to me in phase 1, I didn't have any of my mentees contact me. So I actually went to Inga, the program administrator, and said, who am I matched with? And I reached out to those individuals. So as mentors, if you don't hear from anyone after you get that match email, feel free to reach out as well. But mentees, we expect you to contact the mentor for the initial call, schedule the follow-on meetings, and be clear about what your objectives are. That's probably the most important part. The second thing that we'd like the mentees to be responsible for is logging the hours. So once a month, you'll get an email that says, hey, can you just log your hours? And this literally takes about 10 seconds. You click through, you're in the platform, and you say, yep, I spent an hour with Heather this month, right? Or Heather clicks, yep, I spent an hour with Liz this month. This can be done by the mentor or the mentee, but to be clear, we'd like to have the mentees click and report the hours. Again, this helps us really measure the effectiveness of the program and triggers us for those that aren't actively engaged to go and make sure that the connections are happening. The third area is the feedback surveys. Now, when I hear feedback survey, I usually go, yep, straight to the trash bin, right? Too much time, too complicated. This feedback survey for this program is 6 questions, and it's literally toggle buttons that you click and takes about 1 minute to complete. I wrote down bonus points for written comments because that's where we got the comments that I shared earlier in the presentation on more specific feedback. But if you just answer the 6 questions, it takes about a minute. We send it out in the middle of the program, so at about the 3-month mark, and we send it out at the end of the program at about the 6-month mark. Again, that will come from the One Quantum at Keysight Technologies, same email. So once you unblock that from your spam filter, hopefully those will flow naturally. For the mentors, you can see some of these are parallel requests. Certainly the feedback surveys at the bottom is the same, but what we ask is that you spend 1 hour a month with your mentees, ask and guiding them on their mentoring goals, and providing actionable feedback. And then the second thing that I've mentioned earlier is we really need some help recruiting some additional mentors. We always have more mentees than mentors, and I'm hoping that we're able to match everybody in phase 2 by some of those of you who have signed up as mentees, potentially acting as mentors in this round. So that's a tough thing for us to balance. We have some mentors that have taken on multiple individuals. Denise is certainly one of them. I have also taken on several mentees. So that's another option for folks, but we also don't want to overburden the mentors in the program that are donating their time. This screenshot here is the picture of the survey so that you can believe me that this literally is a 1-minute exercise. I think it's a 5-star rating system, right? On several questions, 6 questions, 1 to 5 stars on each. And again, bonus points for adding some written in comments. And this is my last slide here before we open it up for just general Q&A and comments again. So just some virtual mentoring best practices. This is not a face-to-face mentoring program. And all of this is being done in the, I don't want to say new normal, but the post-pandemic environment of video conferencing and things remotely. So be considerate in the relationship. Discuss your work-life hours that you have accessibility and determine the best times for connecting. Often with my mentees, I say, let's set up a time, but let's both agree to be flexible if something comes up. Life happens. We get sick, kids get sick, business travel happens, and that's starting to pick up. So be considerate. We don't want to have a bunch of reschedules, but be clear on what our hours or good days to connect. The second is to have some empathy, be compassionate about people's work environment. And if you have video on, it's a lot easier to see people's facial reactions and just be sensitive to that. I think everybody in the past couple of years has been working in a pretty elevated environment from a stress perspective. I had a personal situation today where I was in California filming a video in one of the areas of our office. And it turns out we had some people in an open office environment that were talking in their cubes. And it was a little bit loud on the video. So of course we asked them to quiet down. And we ended up having a conversation about, well, geez, you guys are filming a video and, you know, that's interfering with our work environment. So, you know, just being sympathetic to both sides and having some empathy. Using video in the meetings is always preferred if possible. So figure out how you're going to communicate. Figure out if you wanted to have a quick connection, if you're open to texting with your mentor or mentee. Particularly, I find that useful in terms of rescheduling meetings. It's a little bit faster sometimes than emails back and forth. So understand how you want to connect. And listen. Listen. So stay in discovery, build trust by listening, and share candid feedback, right? That doesn't mean necessarily be rude and abrasive and East Coast style with everything. Originally being from the East Coast, I can say that. But you know, let's be sure that we're giving actionable feedback in a meaningful way to people. And sometimes that might be just not giving the mentee the answer, but kind of guiding them to the answer, right? I had a boss once that answered every question I asked him with a question. And in the first 6 months, I found that to be quite annoying. It seemed like the devil's advocate type approach. But what I realized over time is that he was teaching me how to solve the problem, not just giving me the answer. So that's something I'm still connected with him today, more than 20 years later, and we still joke about. So listen, ask questions, and guide. Certainly share best practices as appropriate. All right, so let's see open it up for general questions. If folks want to ask a question live, you can click the raise hand feature and certainly speak up, or you can also put some questions in the chat as well. Denise, is there anything else in the chat, I'll say non-logistics related, that we could answer some questions on?
Here's a really good question. What are some possible outcomes or objectives that a mentee can start with?
And is that, I'm assuming, coming from a mentee?
I don't know. It's from Dr. Lindsay G. And I think, why don't you answer it, and then I'll take a stab at it. Let's just take it from perspectives.
Sure, absolutely. So when I talk to people, sometimes they associate mentoring with, this mentor is going to help me get my next job or make my next career move. And that's certainly one aspect of mentoring or approach where you might be wanting some coaching or consulting. But I would say in general, if you're a mentee, I would be thinking about what are the things that you want to gain exposure to next in your career, and maybe what are some of the things that you want to learn independent of whether it's relevant to your current job or your next job. So I try to write down, for example, when I was transitioning from a sales job to a job in the business unit, I said, okay, I want to learn about international business because I had only done US-based business at the time. So I sought someone out that was a French background person from France that had lived in Hong Kong, so had both a European and Asian perspective. I also was transitioning from sales to marketing, so I enlisted a mentor to teach me about marketing and what are the 4 P's of marketing and what are the basics, right? So in that case, it was around learning a new function, not just a cultural learning. And in many cases, I could be trying to learn certain skill sets. So in my case, as I was moving from first level management to second level management to general management, I might be seeking out coaches or mentors on, could you help me with helping me build and articulate a vision, for example. When I was earlier in my career, it might be, could you help me teach me how to better influence people? Because I find doing things through influence is more effective than authority over time. So thinking about what are some of your objectives of things you want to learn or get exposure to, maybe shadow someone for something, take on a project to learn something. So Denise, you want to give some examples as well or comments?
Sure. So you're right. I had 4 mentees last session, which I loved. And a lot of their questions were around what is their next career step. And so what we did is we took a look at their resume, we took a look at their LinkedIn profile, we looked at what they were thinking about as next steps and who could I introduce them to that might advise them. And so I tried to really talk to the person, as Liz said, and listen to what do they want to get out of out of our time together. And I try to think really hard about how I can help them. So it could be like Liz is saying, more coaching or situational. It could be around career or next steps in school. It could be any variety of things.
Yep. Could be, do I postdoc or do I join industry? Yeah, lots of different topics. Could be, should I go from a big company to a small company or a small company to a big company? A lot of things around career transition. So I mentored someone once that said, I don't know what next job I want to have. I just know that I don't want to do this job forever. So the way that I walked into that conversation with that person and guided them was, okay, in that case, they had worked in research and development. They were currently in a technical support job in a business unit. And I said, well, you know, you're already in the business unit. Let's look at other functions in marketing. You know, maybe would you want to do business development? Maybe would you want to do technical marketing? I said, let's look at what's common between those jobs. And one of the things that's common is customer interaction, right? So I said, have you ever been out on a customer visit? You know, maybe we could get you on the road and meeting some customers, because that's common to both functions. And they really enjoyed that. I also said what's common to both of those jobs is creating technical content. So they asked if they could actually write a technical paper and deliver it in an area that they weren't familiar with. So this was a wireless communications person that then started doing some technical papers on, I'll say, more general purpose topics like phase noise and noise figure in RF land. So sometimes just guiding people to experiences to let them try and see if they like it is one way to do it on maybe a project basis. So sometimes it's all the time it's okay to say, I don't know where I'm trying to go next, but can you help me walk through that conversation?
I see Thomas has a question.
Yeah,
Thomas?
I'm a
Go for
little
it.
concerned you already answered this, but let me ask it anyway. So to what
No,
extent
go
is
for it.
quantum just kind of a convenient umbrella for bringing this group of mentors and mentees together, versus to what extent do you think that being in the quantum industry really is going to shape some of the dynamics of the internship? So like, I'm looking forward to helping people better understand how software development fits into quantum. Is that very, very tangential, or do you think it's really an important part of how this is being put together?
That's a great question. Denise, being the leader for Women in Quantum, do you want to, and having the initial vision for this, do you want to comment first, and then maybe I'll add if there's anything incremental?
Sure. So I think what you're going to find is that everybody has questions around some aspects of quantum, whether it's a career, whether it's an educational next step. So this is really mentoring in quantum. Although people may have different specialties, they may be studying theory, they may be studying software, they may be studying engineering, or they may be in business. So what you get is a mix of people and a mix of questions, but all wanting careers within this industry. Does that answer your question? Kind
I
of?
think so. So it kind of gives a
Mhm.
basis to have something in common, but I shouldn't answer every question through a lens of quantum necessarily, to your earlier points.
I would just say, as applicable, I know that all the people that I mentored were, I want, I want a career in quantum. What is my next step in school, or what else should I learn? What software should I learn? So like you would be perfect. I actually had a lot of questions on how do people get more skilled in programming? So you'll get a lot of questions like that where people are trying to gain more skills, and what are your ideas on things that they should learn around the quantum industry?
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, just maybe a build there. I had recently hired some software people into my team, and they were not quantum physicists, and they were like, how can I learn about quantum, right? So I was like, well, you could take this class at MIT through the XPro system, right? Well, we could do a chalk talk, or we'd call it, for those of you who remember chalkboards, right? A chalk talk or a whiteboard talk on quantum once a week with our quantum physicists, educating our software people, or vice versa, right? So it might be, I'm a software person or I'm an FPGA person, and I want to contribute in the quantum industry. What kind of resources do I have to ramp up? One of the things I had done for all my new hires was said, well, I was in the same position you were. or you are now 2 years ago when I joined Quantum. So here's a playlist of all the videos that I found helpful, right, to help ramp me up and get me up to speed and at least be conversational. So there, I would kind of say it's with a quantum lens. Something else that I think is also unique to this industry is that because it's still small and it's a small community relatively, and it's still emerging, it's just really coaching people on making connections, staying open, looking for areas to partner. You know, it could be, how do I partner or work with other companies in a constructive way, yet not inadvertently disclose IP or things I'm working on by accident, right? That maybe my employer wouldn't want me to say or do or interact with. So it is a very connected ecosystem. I think I've found there's a lot of people moving from company to company over time, and coaching mentees about basics of just how do you connect, and if you are leaving a company, how you're not burning bridges, because it's a relatively small industry. So great questions. Any other questions or comments from the group? I might ask from a participant standpoint, if you're a mentor, maybe folks could enter in the chat something that they found useful. Let's have the mentors speak first. Any of the mentors on the line here that they found useful that their mentees did in phase 1. If you could put a few brief comments in the chat, I think that would be great. Either mentees in phase 1 or mentees that you've mentored in the past, just something to maybe share a best practice. Anything popping up there yet, Denise?
No, and it's not letting me write anymore, and I don't know why.
Oh, interesting.
But I do know that for my first mentoring session, I typically ask people to come with 3 or 4 questions, just as a way to get the conversation started. So
Okay.
I think it's always a good idea on both sides to prepare. Maybe it's for the mentor, it's a little bit like an interview where you ask questions about the person. And then for the mentee, I always try to learn about my mentor, but I also think about, what do I want to get from this relationship? If I'm so lucky as to get Liz for an hour a month, I really think hard about what questions I want to ask Liz so that I can get the most I can out of our meeting. So I think it's important for both parties to think a little bit about how to prep and how to make the most out of the time you have together.
I think that's great. Just a build on that for follow-on sessions with the mentee. What I always tell my mentees to do is, if the day before we meet or 2 days before we meet, they could either text me or email me the 2 or 3 topics that they might want to explore the next day or in our meeting that week, then that at least gives me a little time to think about it, right? Maybe when I'm walking back and forth to work or between meetings. And that cues up me to be prepared for the call as well. So that's a best practice that I think has helped me, and I think the mentees have found useful. So doing that just as a simple 2-minute exercise the day or so before the meeting. Okay. Got the chat back up here. So Daniel has made some comments as well. With my previous mentor, we discussed both quantum and non-quantum. For example, in the beginning, she wanted to know where to learn more about quantum hardware, which was very quantum specific. Later, we compared our experiences hiring to grow our teams, which again, hiring and talent resourcing is a very common challenge in this industry. both as candidates moving around and those of us that are hiring managers looking for talent. So that's another common thread I think that comes up for folks, and retaining folks once you bring them on board. Okay. So any comments or chat from the mentees? Anything that that you've found useful? Certainly feel free to make a comment in the chat as well. Really just encouraging anybody to share a best practice here. So apologize, Denise, I didn't put the correct dates in here, but I think the group 1 or cohort 1 has already been matched. So if you were in the system already last year and have not been rematched, please let us know. But I believe those have all happened and gone out a few weeks ago. And then for cohort 2 or group 2, it looks like it'll probably be early April that you'll be getting something saying you have been matched to this mentor, or conversely, you've been matched to this mentee. So I suspect that'll happen, like I said, maybe in the next week or so. So that's my my wrap for today. Any other comments or questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. It is a large group. We've had over 30 people on. So if that's a bit too intimidating, Denise and I love to hear from you as well. So please send us your questions. Happy to answer any of them offline. Also would love to get any feedback on the session. If this was useful, hopefully folks got at least a couple key takeaways in this process. Great question here from Olga. And so Denise, I'm going to ask if you can follow up with Inga on this, but this is a question I actually had. Could you be both a mentor and a mentee, right? Both mentor, both mentee, or do you have to create 2 different accounts? That's something that I don't know, but I would love to know the answer to, because I'd like to get some mentoring from some of the wonderful people in this network also.
Okay,
So,
got it.
Power of and, just because you're going to be talking with Inga, Denise, if that's okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know the answer either, so
Yep.
it's good to learn it.
And I would say my off-the-cuff answer would be, if you sign up as a mentor or mentee, that's something we can always change in the platform. So nothing in this life is forever. So don't feel that if you've signed up as one, you can't switch gears if it turns out it's a hard-coded thing. We may have to set up 2 profiles, but I'm not sure. Great question, Olga. Thanks for that.
Well, I think that's good.
Great. Yeah, I think we're at time, so I do want to be respectful of folks' time. Thanks for your participation to all of you in the session today, and please keep the feedback coming. It's great to be a part of this. We're, like I said, approaching more than 300 people now, so a lot of connections to manage, but we're excited about it and look forward to hearing the successes from group 2 here.